Generally, writers need to write what hurts. That doesn't mean everything is tragic, but it means you are tapping into what you must say.
Does every writer need to know how to write a pilot?
Yes, every writer needs to write a pilot. First of all, it's the coin of the realm that people meaning agents, producers, even people who are not in the television business, will read a pilot before they will read anything else. In a pilot, they get the originality of your voice and your ability to tell the story and how to write in a shorter amount of time than having to slog through 120 pages of a feature film. So they get all of the same advantage in a shorter reading time. The other thing is that a pilot is likely to show a possible producer or fellowship or agent that you really understand in a compact way how to deliver for today's audience. People watch television, they are not looking at movies, so unless your goal in life is to write episode 900 of some blockbuster action fantasy adventure, you really need to have a pilot for an original show. It doesn't mean that show will be made. It will not be made. But this is your showpiece. This is your masterwork that will then get you the chance to be on the staff of a show, at which point you can then come back to your pilot and maybe then it'll be made. But absolutely, pilot writing is the craft you need. And I would tell any beginning writer that they should have more than one pilot. One pilot isn't enough. For one thing, you learn from every script you write, and you just get better and better. The other is that you may find that after your first pilot, which you thought was the story you had to tell, that there's more to you than that. There are more stories to tell. Generally, shows that get bought are built on underlying material. They're built on books or movies or other underlying assets. So the chance of selling your pilot and getting it made are slight, but it's the thing without which you can't work.
So not just one pilot, but several pilots, and expect them never to be made. This is your sort of calling card. This is your almost resume.
That's right. They might be made. You can hope they'll be made. You never want to say to yourself, this will never be made. But they are evidence of craft. They're evidence of voice. They are who you are as a writer. And who you are should not be one thing. I mean, you can do more than one, and you should. For one thing, they'll get better.
What questions should a writer be asking themselves when they're about to embark on a pilot?
The question to not ask is, how can I imitate something that has already been successful? That's what to not do. I know sometimes people say, well, let me game the business. I saw this work, so I'll do 3% of that and 5% of that, and here, let me do all this, and yeah, I got it, and I'm going to get rich and famous. That doesn't work. What really works is the story that only you can tell. And you, whoever you are, knows that. Generally, writers need to write what hurts. That doesn't mean everything is tragic, but it means you are tapping into what you must say because you have such a great need to say it. Now, that can be interpolated in a way that's not personal. You could do that through history, for example, or even through an imaginary character. It doesn't have to be you, but it needs to be something that you need to convey emotionally and psychologically. And once you know what that is, you can see if there's a way to attach that to something broader than just being your purely personal, intimate tale. And that can be, as I say, political, social, historical. It can be anything you'd like it to be. It can have music, it can have visual material. It can have all sorts of things, but it really needs to come from honesty. And it's anybody who reads a lot of scripts can tell right away if something is dishonest. That is, if something is just trying to make a sale. And it's a turnoff.
What if somebody doesn't want to go there and they say, well, I don't want to?
If you don't want to do that, you shouldn't be a writer. You know, go do some other job. There are plenty of jobs where you don't have to be introspective or honest in the world. And there are plenty of jobs even in the industry where you don't have to be introspective or honest. But if you want to be a writer, there's a reason you want to write. It's because there's something you want to write about. There's something you want to say. And I think that's your obligation to the universe and to yourself.
How much of the world needs to be created in the pilot?
All of the world and all of the characters are from the writer. You need to know everything. Nothing is for the director to figure out later. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have assets from the actors who will bring depths and insight into the characters that are beyond what you may have imagined. The director may also be able to present a scene in a way that amplifies some elements that you only sketched in. The costumes might add something. The location can add wonderful things. So it's a collaborative field, but the writer is the first dreamer among many dreams, and there's a basis in knowing what you are dealing with here, and that means creating the entire world. By that, I don't mean specifics of the location. The scout will do that. But you need to understand all of the energies which are in this situation that you're going for. And there is no difference between character and world. There are characters that could only exist in the situation where they are, and worlds that will be different depending on the story. Look at all the different medical shows that are not the same medical show. Grey's Anatomy does not look like House, and neither of them looks like ER. They're all medical shows, but they are different worlds because the world comes from who the characters are. Beyond that, world building as an exercise is really not something I would suggest that writers spend a lot of time dealing with. I have seen people make a mistake of going off into fantasy worlds and, you know, decorating characters with feathers and doing things that can only be done with animatronics. And maybe that'll work on some feature films. I think it's a waste of time in television.
Sure. I mean, if we think back to the original Blade Runner, that world was so unique.
Right.
And even if you watch the next Blade Runner, it's still beautiful worlds, but there was something about that original world that just, it was almost impossible to recreate.
Well, if you look at Game of Thrones, which has 7 worlds, actually 7 locations, very, very different, filmed in different countries, whether you're in Northern Ireland or whether you're in some tropical place or a desert. There's absolutely unique and important locations and different sets of characters in each world who express the sense of those worlds. They are all coalesced within a certain time frame, a certain time in life, a sort of medievalish time, and a certain way that people deal with each other. So that was definitely an extreme case of world building, but again, what made Game of Thrones the great success it is? Well, it's because we really were caring about those characters. Yeah, they were great battle scenes, and the worlds were gorgeous, and the costumes were gorgeous. From George R.R. Martin, who wrote the underlying novels, the imagining of the worlds were there from the beginning. So the writer had that from minute one, and then it was just up to everybody else to express that. But no, writers have to do it all. This is your world. This is your characters. This is your dream. This is your story. So nothing's off the hook of, oh, well, the actor will do that or the director will do that. That's not the case. You will do that.